walk. And he said I can still walk for 20, 30 years more.
We do dance now. Just joking.
Well, thank you very much to everyone that danced, and thank you for Florence for teaching us a few new moves, I think. Now, for us here in English Mass, Florence is known as an elder sister, or an ate, so a friend or a counselor, a Eucharistic minister, a catechist, a mother figure, but to our special guests who are celebrating with us today, Florence is known as Ms. Chuang, the religion teacher, moderator of the Eucharistic Crusaders at the Xavier School in the Philippines. Aside from Drs. Dado and Frederick, who danced with Florence earlier, we have with us Dr. Cef, a student of Ms. Chuang in religion class when he was in first grade. Dr. Cef performed Florence's knee surgery last year. May we call on Dr. Cef to say a few words to his patient and teacher.
Short fella. Matt, I'm sorry. I thought you were the longest training person who knows Florence, but I beat you by more than 18 years. Because I've known Florence for more than 31 years, for 31 years here in Taipei, and it goes back a long way. I was born to be a notorious gang leader, according to my fortune teller. That's why I had a very violent childhood. I was spanked very badly for any mistakes. So I was also sent to a Catholic school, which was known to be more disciplined. And that was when I met Florence Chuang in grade 1, when I was wearing short pants. More like that little girl over there. Yeah, when I first met Florence. So I was good then. And then there were the stories of Christmas, the star leading the three kings to the birthplace of Jesus. It was also romantic and very fairy tale-like, and it was the base of everything that I started on. It was a good thing that Florence taught me for only 3 years, from grade 1 until grade 3, because after that I had a very rebellious teenage. I rebelled against everything in the Catholic Church. I did not believe the first miracle of Jesus, where water was turned into wine. I thought that it was something that a group of people made up. Everything in the Bible was challenged in the teenage years. Everything you learn in science, you can use science to object to everything you learn. But only after a few years, when there was a crisis in my life, when I wanted to become a doctor, and it was difficult to become a doctor and to find a job, I turned to prayer. And the prayers came through. And that's why I've come back to the church. And the next thing I know, about 25 years later, I met Florence again, outside the Kuting church. It was a surprise because I haven't seen her for more than 20 years, and then the first thing I saw was Florence coming out of the church. I was there to say my Thanksgiving, and there she was, my angel, saying the thanks is okay. And she has always been a part of my answer to all my questions. I've had difficulty with my medical profession. One of the first challenges in life when I came here to Taiwan was that me and my wife were fruitless for about 5 to 7 years. My wife will never allow me to say more than 7 years, but it feels more like that. We did not have children, and so After some time, I said I would quit being a doctor for a few weeks, take a vacation in France. And then that was when Florence knew that I was going to France. And she insisted, you must stay with the church there. We find a dormitory for you. And I never knew what that was. Just that there was a place to stay. That's good, for free. And then that was how I got to know about Notre Dame de Vie. So I was there at Notre Dame de Vie, and I came back without knowing what Notre Dame de Vie was all about. And soon I had one baby, and then another baby, and then another baby, and then another baby. That was when I knew that Notre Dame de Vie had a history of giving children to childless people who asked for children. I just went there to pray, and I didn't know that answers would be answered there. So thanks to Florence, we have children, and my children are also rebellious at this time. They don't like to go to church. So I understand one day God will call them. So don't force your children. And that was the first phase of knowing. Second phase of knowing Florence. She's very quiet. She does not tell you her purpose in life, what she's doing for you. She will know you have needs. She will know that you have some problems. She will try to solve your problems without telling you that she's helping you. And that was how I realized that Florence is, we're always working behind the scenes. 10 years ago, were all of you here when there was SARS 10 years ago? Okay, SARS was just like the MERS, similar to the MERS virus. It was hitting Taiwan like crazy. Many of the hospitals, many of the people were walking around the streets with masks on their face. And I was working in a hospital, a duo of hospitals. The Hebing Hospital and my hospital then was the Renji Hospital. Those were the two hospitals that were closed down because we had SARS patients in our clinic. I was working with one patient who turned out to be a SARS patient. And I only found out the day before the hospital was closed because she had all those signs of SARS. And the other heroine in that incident was Josephine Cohelga. She was the hero also of the SARS incident at Taipei. We were the only two that did not die because we had treated SARS patients. It was as good as a death sentence because I was in close contact with my patient. She's an 80-year-old patient who came to the hospital because of low back pain. And she had a compression fracture of the spine. So I told her when she was admitted that you may have fever on the third or fifth day because you are old and you are lying down. So if you have fever, I will have to force you down to bring you down to walk. Because the only way to treat your fever was to make you walk. Because a lot of compression fracture patients end up with fever because their lungs become collapsed. So that was on the third day when she started to have fever. So I had to force her down, bring her down to walk personally, walk around the room and bring her back to the bed. And the next day, the hospital was a buzz about a lot of patients having SARS. So they took an x-ray of my patient and indeed she had SARS, or looked like SARS. So, long story short. A few more words? Okay. On the fifth day, the hospital was closed down by the national authorities. So we were all confined in the hospital, awaiting to be transferred to another hospital to be confined without contact with all outsiders. That's as good as a death sentence at that time because Basically, what the government wanted to do was just to contain the infection so that the infection would not go beyond all the employees of the hospital. So I thought that, well, that's it. This is about the end of the line. And then that afternoon, Florence just arrived from France, and she called me up. And I said, goodness, Florence, you never call me and you never talk to me, but you always call me up at the right time. I knew I would be saved. And indeed, I survived the SARS incident. We had a few doctors who developed fever. I never developed fever. I had a colleague, a doctor, who had fever, and he passed me his camera. We didn't have cell phones at that time, but his camera had all his bank account numbers, his will, everything. And he said to me, I had fever tonight. Please hand this to my wife if I never survived this incident. So you know how bad it was. So I never talked to Florence ever since I came to Taiwan. We talk maybe on average, maybe once a year, at most maybe twice a year. But she always calls at the right time. Always in crisis, she calls me up as if the Lord is saying, don't worry, things will be all right. So she has been my angel all this time. And they say that criminals or killers, when they have a chance to be constructive, they end up to be surgeons. So I ended up becoming an orthopedic surgeon. I guess the fortune telling was correct. But my father altered everything by sending me to a school where Florence was teaching. So today I'm a surgeon, and I also discovered almost about 5-6 years ago, Florence kept coming to my clinic complaining of knee pain. And we took the x-ray of Florence 5 years ago, and it was already so bad she needed a replacement more than 5 years ago. It's very painful for somebody to be walking with broken knees for 5 years. Every time I tell her that, you know, you should have your knees replaced so you can do more work. But she did a lot of work despite that. I found out also at the time when I was diagnosing her knee osteoarthritis that she was going to China, bringing books to donate to the Chinese community. I said, with your niece, you cannot be doing this anymore. You shouldn't go there with books, you send the younger ones. But she wanted to spare you. So she was bringing the books by herself to the Chinese community in China. And then the Lord works in strange ways. I did not prepare my speech today. And then when the church asked if there's anyone who did not come from church, come to the church for a long time, or any newcomer, I raised my hand. And I said, I'm from Taiwan. And then this Ai sitting there invited me to come here to make the speech. Ai, 请站起来啊！她请我来的。Yeah. She said, you know, today's the 80th birthday of our beloved sister. She has dedicated her life to Jesus. I said, wow, this is really the work of God. That's the main story of the speech. I just made everything in one very short phrase. I should have just said that without telling you all the stories. Well, Florence has been dedicating her life for all of us. She has touched your life as well as mine in ways you don't know. She maybe has argued with some of you, maybe with me, always for the good of all of us. So let's greet her a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Florence!